Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Wednesday. It's Daryl here. It is bright and freaking early, man. It's 3 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. Okay, I must be a morning person. I get up at 1:30, 2 a.m. to start researching news stories, what's going on in the news, cultural events, politics, to make a video for you guys. And as the day, I make the video, I get all excited about it. And so as I'm cleaning up, getting dressed, making my bed, taking a shower, it takes about an hour and a half, 2 hours before I actually make the video. I'm getting all excited. I get all these ideas, all these different things I can talk about. This happens every day, and I feel lucky that I have this inspiration in the morning. And as the day goes on, I'll make the video, and as the day goes on, I'm like, by nighttime, I'm kind of wondering if I should have made the video or not. I'm feeling more, I'm not as feeling as open as I do in the morning. In the morning, I'll talk about anything. Like I've told you guys before, I'm 58 years old. Okay, I've gone through a lot of stuff. I was addicted for 2 decades. I've been clean and sober for almost 18 years, and I just don't care anymore. I know who I am, and I'll tell you guys some things that I've never told anybody else before, and I'm going to do that in today's video. Okay, this usually works best when I give you guys the timeline on how I got the idea for this whole video. I came across a news story on TMZ, and it's going to be right down below as usual. Right in the video description, there's going to be the TMZ article, along with the actual video of Elon Musk talking about what I'm going to tell you guys he said. And this is how this whole video came about. And in this video, I can't believe I'm not a parent. Okay, I don't have children, so I'm not quite sure. I'm going to give you my opinion, but not having children, I feel that I don't feel as confident, judging somebody else like Elon Musk. In this video, he talks about his transgender daughter. Being 58 years old, I still have a problem with that. I'm trying to think of, what is the correct way to address her, because in this situation, Elon Musk originally had a son who transgendered to a woman. And the way he talks about his son, I guess they're estranged. They don't talk at all anymore. I thought about this before. I've thought about this in the past. I have to give his daughter, his trans daughter, a lot of credit. Your father is the richest man in the world, a billionaire, and you disown him. You don't want a cent of that money, a cent of that lifestyle. You imagine that your father's the richest guy in the world. Your possibilities are endless. He owns SpaceX. He owns X. Can you imagine that? Your possibilities are endless. You could do anything you want in this whole world, pretty much. Or do it and get out of it, get away with it. And she did not. She gives it all away for her own integrity. That I have a lot of respect for, because she doesn't talk to him anymore, and I could see why. In this video, Elon Musk says that his son is basically dead, and he says, well, that's why they call it dead naming. And he talks about the woke mind virus. He's going to fight against this woke mind virus, that he was tricked into these the drugs that were given to it, that he signed off for his son, or his trans daughter, and that he was tricked. He was told that there was a possibility that she might do away with herself. And that's true. That's true. And I look at this guy, and I used to think, I don't like him. I've never liked him. And I like him even less now. But I thought about unconditional love. Parents, all parents. Like my mother, I used the hardest drugs for 2 decades, and she had this unconditional love. She always stood by me until she had to get, the tough love. But she always still loved me. She would never disown me. And for him to do this, for him, I used to think he was a smart guy, but the way he talks in this video, and one of the things that occurs to me is that people like him, I would think that they're world traveled, that they've been around the world. So wouldn't he know that transgender people, it's not just like a United States liberal thing. This has been around since people have been around, since the beginning of history. There's been gay people, trans people, It's just, people can talk about it. People feel more able to be themselves. And along with that, there's probably less of occurrences of self-harm that go along with that, because now they're able to be who they want to be. But the way he talks about his son, that he doesn't even have a son anymore. I'm just shocked that this guy, supposedly he's supposed to be a smart guy, SpaceX and all that. And what about the rest of the world? Now, supposedly, I looked the numbers up, and the link will be right down below. There's what supposedly it ranges from 1.5% of the population, the U.S. population, to 3%. Anyway, that's over 3 million people in the United States are transgender. And it's the same with the world. I found it hard to get a solid percentage. It ranges from 1.5 to 3% of the world. So if this is supposedly a United States liberal, Democrat, woke mind virus, it doesn't make any sense. This guy is supposed to be world traveled. And, there's been transgender people since the beginning of the world. There's transgender people, and there's the most transgender people. In the States, it's Hawaii. Worldwide, it's Thailand. And now I'm going to talk about something else. All right, because this made me think of something else, and this is where I transition here. Like I said, I'm just shocked that he's so ignorant. He really, he's talking about blaming this on a woke mind virus, like it's some kind of liberal United States thing, and it's not. This has been around since people have been around. It's not just like the people, this thing going on in the United States. It's people around the world are transgender. They always have been. This isn't a woke mind virus. It's just the way people are. It's too bad that you can't understand it, or you're too insecure to acknowledge it, but it's reality. Okay. So this reminded me of meeting transgender people, and I wasn't completely honest. Like I said, I'm 58 years old and I just don't care anymore. And I have had experiences with transgender people before. Women that have male genitalia. Yeah, I've talked about this in another video, how me and my girlfriend went down to Times Square. This was back in the 90s. And we went into one of the adult stores, and I went upstairs, and it was all transgender booths. I didn't know that at first. These women were gorgeous, unbelievably busty, gorgeous, long hair, long legs, curvy. And you go in a booth, and you put $1 in, and the blinder comes down, so there's a glass between you and the person. And lo and behold, there's a big something there, where there wouldn't usually be with a woman. And I talked about this in another video, but I neglected to tell you guys this, that that wasn't the first time that I'd ever been there. And I'm going to tell you guys that about that now, because I just don't care. I really just don't care anymore. I was with 2 transgender women at the same time. This was back, I remember, because I came back from California. I remember I was wearing a Venice Muscle Beach t-shirt when I went down to Manhattan, New York. I had just gotten back from Los Angeles, and I was going down there on business to buy something I shouldn't be buying, merchandise to bring back up to Connecticut to resell. That's what I used to do back when I was in addiction. I would go down there, and I would triple my money. For what I paid $100 down there, I would sell for $400 or $500 up here, or $1,000 down there, $3,000 or $5,000 up here in Connecticut. And I would go down there. So I had a lot of different things on me at the time. Like I said, I just got back from California. And I was in Times Square all by myself. And I went into one of these, I think it was 1988, if I'm not mistaken. And there was all sorts of these, all Times Square was filled with all these adult stores back then. And I went in, and I was using the whole time. And I went upstairs, and I went into one of these booths, and I had an idea. You could, if you've been around, you could kind of tell. No matter if a woman is gorgeous, the big breasts and everything, and if you look for the Adam's apple, that's one thing that just is a telltale sign. And guys have Adam's apples, and you can usually tell. I mean, they're beautiful, but there's just a little something usually you can tell. So I had an idea. And I went into one of these booths. Like I said, and I had been using, I had a bunch of stuff on me. And I went in one of these booths. And the window went down. There was about 20 transgender women there, all in skimpy outfits, hanging out and everything. And they're like, come in my booth, come in my booth, come in my booth. So I picked the one that I'm attracted to the most, and I go in the booth, and the blinder goes up. And I'm like, wow, I'm amazed. And so I whip out my goods. And I don't want to brag here or anything, but I've been told that I'm blessed. I'm well equipped, And so when this person on the other side of the glass saw me, she was like, wait a second, and she came out of her door and came around to my door, knocked on it, and let herself in. And it was me and her. And this is one of the things that I've talked about in other videos too. This was 1988, and I have to admit, once I got clean and sober in 2006, I was a little worried about communicable diseases, because this AIDS was still a big thing back then. And knock on wood, thank the blessed Lord, I've never contracted anything. I eventually got tested for all those diseases once I got clean and sober. I was terrified. I thought, like this instance being in Manhattan with, New York City with transgender people, women that are in the sex business, I thought for sure that I was I was going to be in big trouble, but I was. I've not, thank the blessed Lord, I've always been free of any communicable diseases, thank God. And here's the thing, with the other women, they all seem kind of competitive, these trans women. And another woman came up to the door, and she's like, oh, what's going on here? So another trans woman came in. So it was me and two trans women with large breasts and large, yeah. And I got to admit, man, it was, if I had it to do over again, I would probably do it. It was an interesting experience. It really was. I'm not going to get into descriptions here. What on in that booth. I did things I shouldn't have done. I think I'm starting to blush. Here's the thing too. I'm going to be totally honest. Like I talked about communicable diseases, and I was safe to us. I was cognizant of that to a point. There was no obvious fluid exchange. Let's just leave it at that. I've gone way too deep so far. I could see them up to 12 minutes. I was going to keep talking because I want to tell you guys about a website that I go to once in a while. And I got in trouble here on YouTube. I actually got suspended for talking about this before. And I'm going to talk about that in the next video. The website, it begins with the word how you chat with people, and it ends with the word what you use to fish, like you use bait to fish. Yeah, I check out that site once in a while, and it has trans people on there, it has men on there, and it has women on there from all around the world. And I still occasionally check that site out. Or I shouldn't say still, I do now, because for a long time I couldn't be around any kind of adult material because it was a trigger for me. For like the first 10 years I was clean and sober, I had to stay away from all adult material. I mean, I couldn't even look at pictures of women in bikinis because I would start thinking of using. And that eventually went away, and that is I'm so thankful for that, but I'll talk about that more in another video. So yeah, I've been with two transgender women at the same time in my life, and they were beautiful and well hung, and I'd probably do it again. All right, have a good Wednesday.